Welcome back, everybody, to the Go podcast. Thank you for joining in. It's a blessing to have everyone who can listen to it. Today I'm joined with a longtime family friend, someone who's been around my life for my entirety. A little bit about him. He is an entrepreneur. He's a business owner. He runs marathons, trying to spread awareness for type 1 diabetes. He's a husband, a father of two, with a third on the way, and most importantly, he is a Christian man. So I'd like to welcome Jacob Phillips.
What's up, Jordan?
Hey.
Man, it's good to be here. I look forward to this. I know I've tuned in for the first few of your podcasts here, so look forward to talking and just getting some information out there and hopefully inspire someone listening.
Yep, me too. I'm excited to have you. I can't wait to see where this goes. So before we get started, I do want to ask you a quick question. Now that you are moving from a family of 4 to a family of 5, how are you feeling about becoming a dad of 3 now?
Yeah, I'm me and my wife, we're welcoming our third child here this summer in July, another girl. So we'll have 2 girls, and right there in between, sandwiched, is a little boy. So looking forward to it. Right now, the way we're feeling is it's not, I don't think it'll be too much different. We'll be a little outnumbered, but definitely no feelings like it was to just have your first one.
Right.
It's just like all unfamiliar territory. So this third one, I think it's just going to be like just another blessing.
Yeah. A little bit easier?
Yeah, I think so.
Not something new that's coming up.
That's it.
Awesome. Well, I'm excited for y'all. I'm excited to get to know her and have her a part of all our lives. Anyways, before we jump in, I've been wanting to ask everybody this. What is either your favorite Bible verse or a Bible verse that you kind of turn to on a day-to-day or week-to-week basis?
Sure. I think I've listened to some others, give their verse, and a lot of people have, at least what I've experienced is maybe when they go through life, their life verse starts to change. Maybe as you're a new believer and as you're young, maybe college years, early 20s, and then just some people just have favorite ones that they just like to have to remember and embed it in their mind, for their daily life. But I would just say one of my favorites would be Isaiah 40:31. It states, "They who wait for the Lord shall renew their strength. They shall mount up with wings like eagles. They shall run, not be weary. They shall walk and not faint." So I would just say that one is, one of my favorite ones that is kind of a daily reminder, the strength that's in you, where you turn to for your faith, different times, different troubles, and things like that. So, yeah.
That's a good one. I don't think I've really heard that one or really spent much time looking at that one, but yeah, I like that one. Let's jump into kind of your childhood backstory, maybe where you grew up, when you were born, and then kind of leading into where and when you found Christ.
Sure. So, born and raised right here in Greenville, Texas. Family of 4. I had 1 sister, 2 parents, stay-at-home mom. Most of the time, she was a business owner for most of my childhood. My dad was a businessman, so he just worked a lot, but he was always there. He never missed anything. So that was great.
Yeah.
I grew up, spent my early childhood in the 90s, and it was awesome. It was great. Both my parents were both very involved with the church. The church back then that I was attending from birth, pretty much, Fairview Baptist right here in Greenville, was something that they were a part of starting. And I know you had my pops, Jeff Phillips, here on the podcast, so you've heard a little bit of backstory about that and his walk and his journey into that church. But it was a great time, and back in the day, in the early 90s or through the 90s, early 2000s, we were at church 3-4 times a week doing stuff. It's a little bit changed now, but it was great, and growing up there was a lot of fun. And I know, Jordan, you were there, your family, a lot of our family and friends that we're still in contact with a lot here today. We're a part of that church. But I believe, and I don't really know to be exact, but I think I was saved or baptized maybe around 8 years old. And that seems to be the standard for most kids. That's when you start kind of grasping, death and life and start believing and having your own sense of faith and believing without seeing type thing. So I was saved early on, about 8 years old. And then that's just kind of what you did back then. But I didn't start getting involved with church until I was about 12 or 13. I was a musician, so I started playing drums at an early age, and then started playing guitar and stuff like that. And so at an early age, I was the young kid added to the worship band for church. So I started doing that, and without even knowing it, that was my way of praise and worship, and honoring God, and something that He blessed me with. And at that time, I was just having fun, and I was just a kid just doing it because I liked it. So that was early on. That's how I got involved with church at that age, about 13 or so. But so saved it at like 8, started kind of getting involved around 13, but I wouldn't say I put an actual label on my faith until I was 16 or 17. So there's kind of a big gap.
Yeah.
And that's where a lot of people kind of start figuring out, different questions and maybe standing up for their faith and deciding their own path. But I would say about 16 or 17 is where I started to really recognize that. So
yeah, well, that's good. Now, because you were saved at a young age, looking back, is there any sense of like when you hear people's stories of like they lived this crazy life doing all these things, and then they had this revelation moment, and then they turned to God? Is there any type of like, man, I kind of wish that happened to me, or is it more of like, I'm blessed that I was grown up in a godly family and a godly community and didn't have to have that experience?
Sure. I think it's each their own. Obviously, that's not what happened for me. But there are different instances that you reflect on later in life, and you figure out, oh, that was a pivotal moment. That was God working in my life. That was taking this path instead of that path. Just for some examples or instances, when I kind of started to fit into my own faith at 16 or 17 was I went and volunteered at a camp in Hasty, Arkansas, Rock Haven Bible Camp, which a lot of people are familiar with around here. And Jordan, you've been up there
yes.
before.
Yes.
And it's just backwoods in Arkansas. These people have a lot less than we do. And it's almost like a whole nother world. They're not exposed to some things that we have down here. Maybe they're a little bit behind on our technology and stuff. But we went up there, and I had some buddies travel up there, and we were the traveling worship band for youth camps. So that's when I started to realize, like, hey, you're not singing, playing, worshiping God for your own purpose because it's fun. You're doing it because you're touching and reaching these students that are your age, and showing them like the example. So that was, I would say, the first time in my life that I recognized what my faith was, how to serve, how to lead, even at a young age of like 16 or 17. Whereas, some of my friends that I was still friends with and hung around back home, they were making other choices, for that summer.
Yeah.
Maybe they were doing a lot of partying, or maybe they were doing a little bit of smoking, or a little bit of getting into trouble, or something like that. Whereas I had to figure out my way of, standing up, turning around, and doing my own path of what I thought was, honoring Christ and honoring myself. So,
yeah, it's good to find kind of like your own path instead of having one kind of built for you. But if you had to say who was your biggest role model growing up, or someone that you kind of looked up to as you got older and started becoming more of an adult and getting more responsibilities?
Yeah, I would say there was a few actually back in the day. We come from a small home church, so there was a lot of people we were around that were very influential. Whether it was pastors or friends within the church, or even some of our family members that we share, that are definitely impactful and always there if you need them. I remember early on going through teenage, early 20s, like I could call your dad for something. I can call Scott, which is like an uncle to us, or I can lean on other friends or my old youth pastor or pastor, any of those guys that would help me out. And obviously, like my dad was very influential and a great leader, showing what to do, not only just speaking it, but living it out. And that's really rare nowadays, to have, a parent or something that's actively living it out, making choices that other people aren't making. And then so you can reflect on those later in life as you, become maybe married or a father or, wherever your career takes you. So
right.
I would say there's definitely been a lot of people that made impacts. So.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, I think it's a blessing to have so many people in your life that you can pull inspirations and motivation things from as you get older.
Yeah.
So moving on from your late teens, early 20s, where were you heading as you got into your mid 20s or early 20s? Where was your life heading towards at this point?
Yeah.
Where were you trying to become?
Yeah, so early 20s, so a lot of life events happened in my early 20s, and I'm sure we'll get into that soon. But I got married pretty young, 22 years old. I have a wonderful wife, Emma. I started dating her when I was a senior in high school, so 18, and or actually 17, and so that was great. We got married. We just kind of started to live our second chapter of our life, I guess. So my vision for myself was, she was a school teacher back then. She already had, she was always like 10 steps ahead of me. So she had already, she already had 2 degrees by the time I had 1 degree.
Right.
She already had her career set up by the time I was, she had already been working for a while, being a school teacher, and I had no idea, I was applying, trying to get a job, right, out of college.
Yeah.
So she was always 10 steps ahead. But yeah, so try to get, my game plan was, I just want to go into business. I want to do whatever it takes. I want to make as much money as I can. And that was kind of the only goal I had, I think. It sounds great, but then when you start actually doing it later in life, I'm about to be 31. I realized, like, there's no way I would have done that at all. There's no way I would have survived that life. Probably would have ruined relationships, friendships, most likely. That's why God didn't take me to that path.
Yeah.
But that's what I wanted to focus on early on. That's what I thought I wanted. So yeah, we got married, and then I started working for someone for about a year, and quickly realized that's not who I am. I'm an entrepreneur at heart. I want to do tons of different things. I want to have tons of different businesses. I want to try new things and not just be stagnant at one thing forever. So anyways, I ended up finding a company called East Texas Print Shop, where you spent many years here with us, and that's been about 8 years ago now. And so that's been a journey in itself, and I'm sure we'll talk about that here with operating a business and working with family, and while still keeping your morals and your faith as your forefront of your company, even when others may try to test that.
Right.
But that's kind of where from 22 to where we are now, at almost 31 years old, where we are. So
yeah. Now, if I'm not mistaken, there was a pretty big life change that happened shortly after you and Emma got married.
Yes. Yeah. So looking back on that, so the year, it was 2016, and it was actually the week of my 22nd birthday. So it was May 9th or 10th. My birthday's on the 12th. And so a lot of stuff was happening that week. So I'm in my senior year of college. I've been studying for final exams. I have to pass everything. I'm getting them taken. I'm studying because then my birthday's that week, and then on Saturday I was supposed to be walking the stage and graduating college. So I had it all mapped out. Well, I had been struggling a couple weeks leading up to that with just some really strange symptoms and being really tired and not feeling well, and I ended up losing a ton of weight. And on the night of my birthday, my family and Emma, my fiance at the time, she was just super concerned about me. And they were just thinking, oh, maybe he's just been working really hard trying to study and pass his exams. It's kind of a stressful week. Well, come to find out, I went to the hospital. Long story short, I was diagnosed with type 1 diabetes, and so I spent a few nights there in the ICU, which if you don't know what type 1 diabetes is, you can look that up, but it's an autoimmune disease, and there's no cure for it. Basically, you're insulin dependent, so everyone's normal body creates insulin via their pancreas. Well, I have a pancreas, it just doesn't work anymore, so I have to, I'm on MDI, which is multiple daily injections of insulin. So anytime I'm having sugar, carbs, any type of food, I have to keep an eye on that number so it doesn't get too low or too high. Too low, you can pass out and you can die. Too high, you can be put in DKA or kind of like a coma. So there's two, it's a double-edged sword there. You gotta stay in the middle. So it's constant monitoring 24/7. It's a ton of work, but it's manageable. Yeah. So there's a lot of details we can go in on that. But that is the big life change that happened. I don't even, to be honest, remember what life was like before it. I know what it's like, but my body doesn't remember. It's really strange. We're almost to 10 years since that. So
wow.
So a big thing that happened.
Wow. Yeah, that's crazy. That seems like a lifetime ago, but 10 years isn't really that long ago.
I know.
Well, just I guess keeping on this same topic, kind of whenever after you were first diagnosed with type 1 diabetes, kind of do you remember how you felt those first few months after, maybe even the first year or two after, just kind of where your mind was, how you felt being diagnosed with it?
Yeah, so a lot was happening. You know, I got diagnosed, been a few nights in the hospital, and you know, if I was a kid, they probably would have held my hand a little bit more, but I was a full-grown adult. So they're kind of like, here's what you have, here's what you need to do, and there you go. Go on. So I ended up going back to the story, ended up a few days later getting checked out of the hospital, and then that same day my wife very strongly encouraged me to go and walk and get my diploma there from college, so I ended up doing that. And but going back to those first initial thoughts, I remember laying vividly in the ICU. At first they were limiting. I was out of it most of the first 24 hours. They were just doing so many things to me, and I was out of it. And they had me, 3 or 4 IVs with I don't even know what it was. I remember laying there at nighttime or middle of the night. I don't think I had a visitor at that time. I think I was by myself. And I just remember the constant beeping of the machines and laying there, staring at the wall, and just asking God, like, why? Why is this happening to me? Is there anything that I did to deserve this? Could I have done something better? Why did you choose me for this? Or, why was the timing like this? It was a very odd thing. Most people get diagnosed at adolescence, so childhood, around 10, 13 years old. It's a little bit more common now for people and adults in their 20s to get diagnosed. But I just remember being asking why, being very angry, and then just having to deal with this. So anyways, those first, ended up going home and yada yada, getting married, starting a job. So there's a lot of new things happening. So there's a lot to feel overwhelmed with. Anyways, this was the first time that depression has ever touched my life. Those first couple years, I didn't really care what would happen. So I wasn't monitoring it. I didn't really care. I was pretty much eating whatever. I was maybe checking it once a day, which was not good at all. So I spent about 2 years with that. And then one day something just clicked. Like, I wasn't meeting personal goals. I wasn't working out anymore. I wasn't eating good. I was probably being a jerk more than what I should have been. A lot of different things were happening. So I ended up just one day, I think I just asked my wife for help. Like, hey, I need to get better at this. Will you help me? So anyway, I ended up getting on a permanent monitor that reads my blood glucose levels, keeps me in sync, getting back into a great healthy diet, back into fitness, all that stuff, which started turning things around for me. And so that was, you remember throughout your life big kind of pivotal moments, and that was definitely one. So
yeah, that's good. How before I jump into the second part of the diabetes thing, which you're starting now, you're going to Europe for something for that, and then you did something in New York. But I did want to ask, how was it having a partner and a wife, someone who you trust and can that you can share stuff to, and just have someone there that you can bounce stuff off of?
Oh, it's great. Anytime someone's going through anything, whether it's either mental health issues or career changes or schooling or family relationships or anything, we're not meant to take it all on our own. We're meant to share that with others and get advice and help come up with a solution, and two heads are better than one, right? So, definitely a great thing to have, even to this day. It's weird with diabetes and different things, like it could be 3 a.m. and the alarm is going off on my phone because my blood sugar is just crashing. Well, I'm asleep. When you get low blood sugar, you're kind of a little out of it. You're moving a little slower. You're not comprehending certain things. So she would jump up out of bed, go get me orange juice, bring it to me, make sure I'm good. So she's always been there for that. So definitely thankful for her for that.
Yeah. So. Yeah, that's great. That's good to have someone there by your side to help you through the hard times and the troubling times.
Oh yes, for sure.
So, you said that you were diagnosed in 2016, right?
Yeah, 2016.
How long after that did y'all start East Texas Print Shop?
So, it was pretty quickly after that. So 2016, diagnosed in May, and at the end, like literally the tail end of 2016, like in December, the last days of December, ended up coming up with this idea that I'd been working on for quite some time, which would be East Texas Print Shop. We got some things finalized before the end of that year, and then we ended up opening the following year in May of 2017. It was a crazy business idea that I was able to get some family on board with and go along with lots of help, advice, financial help, like everything to set us up. And it was kind of a shot in the dark, but it was the first of hopefully many things to come throughout the years of trusting God and not holding back, just going for what you want. And we're not meant to take it all alone. So it's a good reminder of maybe if you come up with an idea and you work so hard to make something happen, there's people along the way that can help you, and they're there to, only make you better. So yeah, 2017, we opened up, and we've been going at it. We've had lots of people come and go here, but we're still in business, so that's a great thing. And we like to do a lot of things here, and we like to kind of transition to one of the main focuses of this podcast, right, is mission oriented. So when we did this, we wanted to make sure we stay, incorporated with our community and whatever that might be. We do a lot of volunteering. We do a lot of financial support to some nonprofits, some organizations locally. We like to always support others that are, doing business and supporting us. So we make that a big, team goal of trying to do that, whether it's just, a couple times a year. For some examples, we have like For the City, which is a big citywide kind of community outreach program. And so we volunteer and we drag our team with us. We go down there and we volunteer for the day. And, what's one day of our time, to make an impact for someone's entire year.
Right.
So we do some things like that. We support other nonprofits like the Boys and Girls Club. We volunteer with them in the summer. We support the Rafa Clinic, which is the pregnancy crisis center locally. And so lots of things that we try to keep our hand in for the community. You don't have to go get on an airplane, go make a trip to serve others, right? To show Christ through you, you can just volunteer a day here in town and go do that, and you can still make a great impact.
Yeah. Missions and helping people doesn't have to be halfway across the world. There's people in your own community that will need help like that. Speaking of help, I just want to touch on this real quick. A few months ago, I think it was last year, we had that unfortunate incident where the officer was killed in Greenville.
Yes.
How, as a business owner, was it? How does it feel? How was it? How were you able to feel to be able to provide some sort of relief for that?
Oh yeah, that was a difficult time. I think the entire community was touched by that. Even if you didn't know Officer Dawson, that was a long, emotional thing to deal with. So yeah, Officer Dawson was fatally shot here in town, responding to a call, and we like to try to help the community however we can. Some people, they're able to give their money, they're able to give their time, they're able to do whatever it is, but we're able to set his family up with a fundraiser, and we don't speak too much about this portion of it. But essentially we set him up with a fundraiser, and we sold some t-shirts because that's what we do, and that's our way of serving and trying to do what we can to help restore certain things with his family. So that was an insane time. I think we probably printed more shirts. That was probably one of our bigger t-shirt orders we've ever had, and the community showed up. They bought t-shirts, and we donated all the proceeds to the family, and it was awesome. Yeah,
that was cool hearing about just not only how many shirts people got, but just the fact that family could be shown love, not only from the community of Greenville, but also from East Texas Print Shop.
Exactly, and we just want to, whatever it is that we volunteer with, we want them to see us, and it, obviously it feels great in the moment, like you're able to, give back and do something kind. But then they can also, they're going through the worst days of their life,
right?
For that instance, or maybe, it's a struggling parent down at the Boys and Girls Club, and that's the only place their kids can go in the summer, and we're there volunteering, and maybe they recognize us, or they see our t-shirt later on and they say, oh, those guys, they were there, like they helped us, like those are good people, let's and then we talk with them, and maybe it opens the door for something later on. So it's always a good time.
Okay, that is really good. So how does being a business owner, what does that look like to you personally, and then also how does it look like being a Christian and kind of upholding the Christian values, and just, I guess, what does that kind of look like to you and to your team?
Yeah, it's definitely not easy. Some days are harder than the others. Obviously, just being a business owner and entrepreneur, like you have to work 10 times as hard as the guy who goes to clock in and out, right? Everyone knows that. But it is difficult. We do pride ourselves, and if people ask, we say we are a faith-based company. We're all believers here. And one of the cool things, though, is we've had some people, some former employees come in and work for us, and without directly asking, we know like maybe they're not, a Christian, or maybe they believe in something but they're not sure. But so what's really cool is we're able to kind of drop different things, and maybe if they have a sour taste in their mouth, and maybe when they leave they don't anymore. So it could open different things. Not only our team here, but when we deal with customers and talk with people, and they get to know us and they hear our story, and then maybe they're like, oh, we saw you do this in the community, or back when I was going to Africa in 2023, I was trying to raise some funds, and some people would ask, and they donated, and they're like, oh, I didn't know that you did mission trips or anything. So it just kind of opens some different doors to discussing, and dropping little nuggets here and there, in hopes that it could be great one day.
All right, so you had said you started a fundraiser to go to Africa, but a more recent fundraiser that you did was for you to go to New York City. Do you want to sponge and kind of expand on that?
Yeah. So like you mentioned, we do a lot of different fundraisers, through our shop here to help with the community. But I also got to get on the back end of that and do a fundraiser kind of for myself, which was I got invited to run the New York City Marathon with a type 1 diabetes running team, to kind of be an advocate and spread awareness for what us with type 1 live with. So going back to the running, I know you mentioned in that sweet intro you gave me that I was a marathon runner. Yes, and that is one thing that I recently discovered here about coming up on about a year and a half ago or so. I had started to get back into fitness and what a healthy lifestyle would look like, and I just started picking up running. You don't need anything. It's just take off. So I started doing that to help with my health conditions and things like that, and quickly fell in love with it, not only for the sport of it, and just being outside running. There's really nothing like it, but also just mental clarity as well. That's just another thing. Like, it helps me with just anything I'm going through. It's a big stress reliever, and then you kind of start to get fixated that when you're training for a marathon. So that's become a big part of my life here in my second I'm starting my 30s now, and so that's definitely become a big part of my life now. But I started running those, ran a marathon in New York City, and then have 2 marathons on the books this year, one being in Berlin, Germany, and the other one in Chicago. So look forward to those, and just not only doing those for just because they're fun, but I wanted to set out to not just try to do it just to check it off and do it for fun, but when I'm running these races, I'm trying to every time at least make it about type 1 diabetes awareness and running, and raising funds, and just kind of bringing to light the cause and everything, and trying to encourage kids and even adults living with this. So that's become a big part of my life right now, and it's a lot of fun, and I hope to transition that to opening a door for other things, maybe in the ministry world. So when I'm out there running and meeting all these great new friends and people that I'm interacting with, I'm trying to be able to get my foot in the door and maybe even share my faith a little bit. So that's in the hopes of the future, though. But I know, if you stay on the course, God will open up those doors for you, and you just got to be prepared, and He'll put you at the right place at the right time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. I totally agree with that. I definitely agree. So marathon running, that's crazy. That's pretty cool. I've never ran a marathon, so it'd be pretty crazy to train for that.
It's just as long as it states. So it is definitely every bit of 26.2 miles.
Mm-hmm.
So,
wow. Well, so let's go ahead and jump into the mission trip stuff. So where and when was your very first mission trip that you can remember going on or being a part of?
Yeah, so first mission trip, which was actually your first, right?
I think so.
Monterrey, Mexico, 2006. I heard your story on that. We loaded up, just a quick overview. A bunch of people loaded up in this big coach bus and headed off to Mexico. And that was such a journey. And, you know, I don't know, 2006, I was 13 years old or something like that. And it was a ton of fun. What I can remember, it was a big culture shock, but it was fun, you know, getting down there, just making friends, getting involved with the community that we were in, doing like vacation Bible school and, you know, holding church services. And I do remember a little bit of construction. I was definitely old enough to do manual labor, so I do remember taking concrete mix, a bunch of water, a wheelbarrow, and a shovel, and mixing that up, and then trying not to spill it. And we were just building, I think, walls and stuff like that. And it was definitely a lot of fun. But then the next set of mission trips started in, I believe it was 2010. So it was around that time, if you remember back here, earlier, when we were talking about kind of where did you find your faith. It was at that 16-year-old mark.
Okay.
And I went on my second one internationally, I guess, to Montego Bay, Jamaica. And it ended up actually going there 3 years all in a row.
Okay.
So I went there 3 times. And it was awesome. So I got to kind of see how everything came to life after we left each year. And, you know, oh, we were working on this, or I met this person, or I met this kid, and now they're grown up. So it was a lot of fun, you know, going to the same place a couple times to revisit and reconnect and catch up. So that was a lot of fun. Going to Jamaica, I got to go, I may be wrong, but I went the first time, I think it was me and my sister. The second time, I think our whole family went, so both of my parents went as well, I believe. And then the third time I went, Emma, which was my girlfriend at the time, and then my best friend actually got to go. So a lot of different experiences there, and, you know, each trip is not going to be like the next, right?
Right.
It's not going to ever be the same. The same people are not going to be there. The same, you know, circumstances are not going to be there. But those 3 trips really sparked a lot for like, oh, like I really enjoy this. This is a lot of fun. So yeah, went there. And then my most recent one was in 2023, where I took a journey alone from here to Fort Portal, Uganda, Africa. And that was in 2023.
Yeah. How was that kind of doing something like that by yourself? Because all the previous mission trips, you had at least, you know, another person, you had a group going. So how was doing a solo journey?
It was a lot different. But I've never been fazed by, you know, traveling alone and not knowing, you know, what to do, where to go, or being kind of weary or scared to talk to certain people or whatever it might be. So I was game. I was fine. I had no doubts, you know, before I left. The only doubts I had, or maybe they were just nervousness, was, you know, when you're going, you're leaving something behind. So then I'm leaving a wife and 2 kids behind. So that was the hardest thing. The hard thing wasn't the, you know, multiple flights, the long travel, the, you know, journey to the unknown. That wasn't my concern, really. I knew that, you know, I'm going, God will keep me safe. You know, I'm gonna get there. I'm gonna see my friend. You know, trust Him, and I'm gonna go, and then I'm gonna come back home.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Well, this most recent trip to Africa, you went to go see a friend. Now, I could be mistaken, but you hadn't met him before in person, had you?
No, so traveled to Fort Portal, Uganda, which is the capital of Uganda is Kampala, and which is a big city, tons of people. Fort Portal is about a 4-hour drive or so up to the mountains. Very beautiful, very beautiful, and it's actually where. So I met a friend. His name is Frank, and the crazy thing, just how God works, is my sister and my dad went to Uganda in 2008. They met this kid Frank, who was about 16 at the time, I believe, 16 or 17. Met him, and he tells me all the time, like, that impacted my life. He tells me, your dad was a pivotal tool in just shaping my faith and turning my life, which is really cool to hear.
Yeah.
You want to be like, you strive, you can do 1,000 trips, for your whole life, and if you get one of those, like, that's what it's for, right?
Yeah.
So he tells me that all the time, and they had met this kid, and he had been struggling. He had a really difficult home life, and he actually has a book out. I think you could purchase it on Amazon. It's called Journey to Yonder. I believe it's out there, and it's an incredible book. I'll make sure I get you my copy, Jordan. You can read it. Okay. It's really cool. Just shows, from start to finish, or start to now, what a life can be like, and then you incorporate Christ, and then it can completely change for you. Anyway, so they had met him, and then, of course, about a week or so later, they come back home. I remember my sister and my dad, telling me all about the trip and getting connected with him, and she was still being, she had befriended someone about her age, and long story short, she had, I think, helped set him up with his first email address and a Facebook account, or I think it might have been MySpace account or something like that back then. And this was super unfamiliar territory for people in Africa back then. Set him up, and then we just started connecting and talking, and we would write letters, and he would write one to us, and then, we both have a love for soccer, and so we talk about that, and we had the same teams and the different players, and connected, and he would send maybe a package to me of a couple things from Africa, and I'd send him a soccer jersey from the U.S. or something, and so it was just a kind of a pen pal thing at first, and we stay in touch, and time goes on, and I've always wanted to get out to Africa, and this is from 2008 till now, or until 2023. There's some times I tried, but of course, finances, it takes a lot of money, it takes a lot of time and a lot of logistics to do that, and he even had asked me to be in his wedding, and I couldn't make it out, and all these different things come up, and then finally, I got to a point in my life where I just, whatever it is, whatever it takes, I'll just say yes. If I have an urge or a feeling, I've kind of, the past few years, taught myself over time, go chase it, go do it. This may not ever be here again.
Right.
Anyway, so ended up connecting with him and scheduling up a trip, and taking off, journeying by myself to Africa, and got to finally meet him, meet his family. He's got 3 kids, a beautiful wife and 3 kids, and see what it's like for him, and go to his village that he grew up in, physically go there and see his impact through his ministry, which is called Yonder Life Africa. And I'll kind of get in a little bit to what I did with them, and what they showed me, what they're doing, and all that stuff. And that ministry has been growing for about 10 years or so.
Okay.
But anyways, it was a great trip, and nonetheless got to at least meet a great friend after close to 15 years or something, or whatever it was. So.
Yeah. Oh, that's awesome. It's so funny because you never hear about that. You make a friend that you never met before, and then that blossoms into finally meeting him 15 years later.
I know, it's wild, and we'll text every few weeks or so. We'll text or send pictures or back and forth, or whatever it might be. And so the relationship's still there. It's great. Love him like a brother.
Yeah.
So hopefully I can get back over there at some point, take the family or take others over there and get involved with what they have going on, or get him out here to the U.S.
Hey, that would be pretty crazy. I was going to ask if you had any plans to go back there anytime soon, or if you just kind of playing it by ear.
Just kind of playing it by ear. Nothing planned now. Takes a lot, and it takes a lot to get to planning a trip like that.
It does.
And I think if I go back, or when I go back, I want to either bring others or take the family. So that'll take a little bit more.
Yeah.
Than just kind of buying the ticket, making the phone call and going.
And just going. Okay. Yeah. Well, just a few more questions, I guess. We're almost getting close to being done, but so what do you think? How did you think God maybe had changed you before versus after that trip? Like how he maybe worked in your life, worked in your heart, or something like that.
Yeah, I got to experience firsthand. You volunteer. Maybe you're in your own community and you maybe give a day or so, but meeting Frank, his family, seeing their ministry there, and a little bit about their ministry, they focus on different communities, and they stay within that community, and whether it's helping out widows and orphan kids, and or showing them ways of life and different things they can improve on to help maybe their health. They grow their own food, but they show them different ways, like grow it this way, and you're gonna have more food.
Yeah. Or
hey, do this, incorporate this into your hygiene and your health, and you're gonna live better. You're gonna eliminate some of these things you're dealing with. And just one example, like I remember going there, and this was of course after COVID, and he was like, I got to see these little makeshift hand wash stations. They went into all these, like they would gather the community and say, hey, here's basically a hand wash station with buckets, a pulley system, a bar of soap, rainwater or well water.
Okay.
Like, wash your hands before you handle food. Wash your hands before, like this is how you can kind of bathe. This is gonna keep you healthier. So different things like that you wouldn't think of. Or they have a big farm, and they grow crops there. They raise pigs. They raise animals, and they show the community different ways of sustainability. They don't just want to say, here's some food, eat. They want to say, oh, here's some food, but come here and learn how to grow, learn how to be sustainable, so that you can impact your own family.
Yeah.
So it's a great thing to see that.
Yeah.
See someone who is still, like, he's going back to his own village, his own community, helping them out, instead of just like, oh, I can throw you a bone, I can throw you, meals, or I can help, and then I can move on to the next. He's like committed. He's committed to that. So really cool to see.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So for anybody listening, is there a website or a media page that they can go to if they wanted to know more, or maybe even support?
Yeah, yonderlifeafrica.org, I believe, is the website, and then you can find them on Facebook and Instagram and learn a little bit more what they do. They do, of course, the agriculture, sustainability, but they also they pay school fees every single month for. I believe when I was there, it was around 70 or so kids every single month they paid for.
Okay.
So a lot of different ways you can give monthly. You can do a one-time gift. You can drop a comment on their page. Lots of cool things. It's still growing. They're still trying to really make that big breakthrough. But they're persistent at it, not giving up, and doing really good. So
that's cool. That's cool. I'll make sure to put that link in the description, so if anyone wants to go there, they can. They'll have that there.
Sweet.
So, alrighty. Well, is there anything else you kind of want to touch on before we call it quits?
Man, I think that's it. That was kind of a little bit about my life growing up, what I've been involved in, what I'm going through now, and just to show that life can be thrown at your face quite hard sometimes, right? But as long as you get up every day and keep going, that's not to say there won't be bad days.
Right.
But if you have that foundation in Christ, you have others to lean on. You have a community. You maybe have a spouse or a friend, a relationship. It makes it way, way easier.
Yeah.
So I would just encourage, whatever it is, ask for help, ask for guidance, ultimately ask God for that, and you're going to be okay, and that's it.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Alrighty, well, I guess that's all we got. So thank you for sparing some time for this episode. Hopefully this helps a little bit of people, maybe who are starting a business, or maybe they just got diagnosed with diabetes, or maybe if they want to go on a mission trip. So maybe this will be a way to kind of pull some inspiration from. So, all right, well, thank you very much, and thanks everyone for listening. Take care.